continue to live the entrepreneur life is that it's a marathon. And if you treat it like that, you're going to sprint a lot less and try to keep a healthy pace so that you can keep going instead of following that boom and bust cycle that tends to happen in a startup environment. So we're very aware of our kind of, all around the clock customer service and really structuring our company like that. And my role is trying to live what I preach and not, kind of following the 9-to-5 work expectation model, because that's just not what customers want anymore. So I think it's just really important when you're running a project or running a business to keep that in mind, that you have to find innovative ways to respond to your customers to make sure that you're not kind of burning out your company, burning out yourself, and still being able to keep up on this amazing pace of communication expectation. So in conclusion, I think that's the end of my presentation. I just wanted to thank you for having me here. It's just really rare that I get out of the office to talk about what we're actually doing and pick up our heads and kind of, recognize that there is a really cool startup story to tell. I hope I can share some of the struggles, the accomplishments, the lessons that I've kind of learned over the past 3 years, and I'm happy to speak with anyone afterwards. And I guess I'm just trying really hard not to keep going on this really fun ride, because that's the ultimate goal, is to keep making as many good candies as possible. Thank you.
Are you okay to take some questions?
Sure.
Does anybody have any questions? Right here. There you go.
Yeah, it's on. My name is Nick, and one of the gummies that I seen earlier, it was the Ice Cube one, and it said that it contained white rum. So is that like sort of more for the adults, sort of say, or no?
Well, it's not actually alcoholic. I'm not allowed to sell alcoholic gummies. We do a lot of recipe suggestions where we teach you how to use them in cocktails, but based on Health Canada, we're not allowed to sell cannabis or alcohol gummies. But if we could, we would. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Dante. I'm a high school student. Anyway, as everybody knows, the candy industry is huge and it's very competitive. Was there did it scare you to go up against these companies, knowing that there are already companies, like other gummy companies and companies like Hershey's, that are already have strong footing in the candy industry? And what made you think that your idea of Squish would sort of separate yourself from the other companies that are already sort of out there?
Thank you. Great question. All I can say is that when you're competing as a retail brand, I think, even larger, you have to ask that question when you're starting a company. These are companies in any sector that have millions or billions of dollars and huge market share. And I would say don't fight something you can't win. I'm not trying to fight them for shelf space. And so what I did was create my own environment. And it's a completely different model than trying to go after Hershey's for their, which some brands do. There was a caffeine chocolate bar company that started around the same time I started. I think it's called Awake. And they went and they tried to, their model was just different, right? They chose one product and they tried to go into the grocery store business. It's just a different challenge, and I think that we tried to carve out a space in malls, and there was no gummy specialist store. There was a lot of chocolate retailers like Rocky Mountain and Laura Secord. And so we kind of carved out a place where we thought we could win, essentially. So we didn't really go where we didn't think we could win. If that answers the question.
So hi, my name is Alan, and I'm in the menswear business. So I'm providing tailor-made suit for men's.
Yeah.
And I'm planning to open a new store in August. And I was wondering, what's your strategy to open those mini stores with the decline of retail world and without relying that much in the foot traffic? What's your strategy?
Well, retail is definitely being hit right now. But you can also see that as an opportunity. A lot of the malls are actually coming to me, and I think that you can try to negotiate a very short-term deal that might not have been even available 2 years ago. I think that malls are much more open to pop-up concepts, and if you can open with as least commitment as possible, then you can at least test. And I think this pop-up store strategy has been really helpful for new businesses like us who don't have deep pockets to get some cash, just make sales, and to be present in malls that, we might not have been able to enter in more competitive times. So I think it's completely to your advantage to pick the location and the market you want to hit and to try a short-term solution.
Over here, Sarah.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Jeff, and you talked a lot about branding.
Yeah.
I just want to know how you came up with the name. And the second part of my question is, where did you start your first store, and what did you see, and why did you pick that place?
Great. I talked about this in our earlier session. My best friend texted me the name. It's we had gone through a lot of rounds with bigger agencies, and I really went through the whole kind of process of having to stick to my vision. And at the end of the day, the best answers sometimes come from all kinds of places. And she suggested it after hearing some of the suggestions that had been brought forward by the quote-unquote experts. And she was like, those names are terrible. And she's like, have you thought of this? And it's bilingual, because that was my #1 criteria opening in Quebec. And also something that was playful. I wanted a name that represented the brand, and so she came up with it. And our first location was in Laval. It's a suburb of Montreal, and we wanted to find a location that was very busy, to kind of get as many people seeing our brand as possible. And again, we negotiated a really good deal at the end of the day. They were going to do construction in that part of the mall, so we said, we don't care, we want to get in there anyway. And we got a 2-year deal, which again is very rare in the kind of retail leasing business. And that kind of got us our foot in the door. And since then, we've signed an extension in that location, which is very exciting. So, and also there was a great mix of types of demographics. So you had young, old, family, non-family, high school, and English and French. And so that's why we chose Laval.
Over here, Sarah.
Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Midhat, and I had a question about growth. So earlier you said that you were the president of David's Tea, and now you're doing this. But then in the different businesses, you expanded so much all across North America in David's Tea in 1 year. But then this time you wanted to slow down. So do you find that growing so much so quickly is detrimental? And is that a reason why you want to be more careful, or I just was wondering.
Great question. I think there's different realities and different. So right now, the kind of stage we're at is we're on the verge of an expansion. And I guess my only comment is learning from the David's Tea model, where we took on external financing from a US private equity group out of Boston. Now, that was a choice for that business because the strategy was really to be first to market in the tea segment. Candy is a little bit different because there's not really anyone doing what we're doing right now. There's no other gummy specialist store. So I don't feel the same urge to kind of bring in very aggressive financing and growing the team really fast. We have a really good team right now, and I guess I'm just, having learned from that experience, not being forced to make decisions more quickly than maybe we'd want to, just because other people want you to. And that takes a lot of, that was a big learning curve for me, so I'm just trying to share that kind of emotional feeling behind it. I really do want to react to opportunities, but it's not because I think growing fast is wrong. I think that it's just about growing right. And so we're trying to pick the exact right markets maybe in the US or in Canada and really doing it the way we feel comfortable.
Last question,
Yeah.
right here.
Hi.
Hi.
I own a small coffee company.
Yeah.
And so I want to know, how much of your time do you spend on product development, and how much of your time do you spend on marketing and communications? Because it can be hard to balance both.
Well, that's a great point. I'd say this in both David's Tea and in Squish. Something I feel very passionate about is product development and the amount of time you take in developing your products. And the quick answer is that by structuring a marketing department that isn't just at the end of the line, it's not the last thing you do, it's involved from the beginning. So your marketing is your product development. It's a holistic experience, and you're kind of getting that marketing angle in right away. You don't want to kind of force a marketing, I think it's a very old-fashioned way of marketing, which is, here's a product, sell it. It's kind of like if you don't believe in it and you get people to speak up from a marketing perspective right at the beginning, and then they'll do a much better job at marketing it. And so it's kind of like a blurry line, I guess, of how much time do you do developing it, because you're kind of marketing it while you're developing it. You're thinking about that angle right away, like, will people get this? I'm not just making like a candy that I love to eat. Like, for example, I love spicy, but the marketing team will say, like, people don't like spicy as much as you do. So you have to think about that. You can't just kind of think about it at the end. So I think about both all day long is the answer.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's hear it.